The foreign exchange market has no doubt been under pressure in the last couple of months following oil price decline, and the situation has actually posed significant challenges to the Central Bank of Nigeria with regard to the stability of exchange rate and protection of foreign reserves. Now, in all of this, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the business community have been concerned about the consequences of the CBN's approach to the management of foreign exchange market over the last few months, with the introduction of some of its policies. Now, particularly the exclusion of some 41 items from accessing Forex from the CBN's official window has been a major source of concern to the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the business community. Now, the LCCI did a recent impact assessment of some 8 sectors to gauge the effect and implications on the businesses, especially the value chain as well. Dr. Vincent Wani, Director of Research at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, joins me now. Good morning to you, Dr. Wani. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Now, it's been a couple of months now since the central bank, introduced that policy restricting some 41 items from accessing, Forex from its official windows. How has it been like? What your recent survey, what did it show?
Yeah, it's been. You say how does it look like? It's been a problem, and we took it up from that July date that this announcement was made. The CBN recent Forex policy is not just banning the 41 items. They also moved to stopping cash foreign exchange lodgement to domiciliary accounts, and also prohibiting businesses or companies from utilizing the export proceed on the 41 items that have been banned. Over the last 3 months, it's been a very big problem, and it's interesting to know that the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry took it up from day one. A whole lot of stakeholders never saw it from the point we saw it, but thank God recently everybody is aligning when the real consequences hitting virtually everybody, and of course we've engaged Central Bank of Nigeria about the consequences, even with the impact assessments. Impact assessment we carried out early this month. Even when the policy was announced in July, we also engage them through different forums. But in terms of the consequences, it's been daring from sector to sector. Consequences in terms of job losses, in terms of reducing the activity of private sector, even in terms of reducing the revenue of government from different angles. The FIRS, of course, that is yet to be announced. But with the custom, at least we've seen how the picture is coming up. For instance, our authentic figure we got from the custom shows that about 300 billion is shortfall January to December. Comparing the figure from 2014 against that of 2015. And of course, the statement shows that the major reason why this is happening is because a lot of businesses are not able to clear their goods from the port, especially those businesses that have imported or started the importing process before this policy was announced. They can't process the Form M. Nigeria businesses have the culture of first of all going to their counterparts to get this coming before they will now go and start processing Form M. That is not happening, and it's affecting the revenue of custom. And if this policy is allowed to last till December, of course, that will also show in the bottom line of the tax authority, because companies will not be able to make as much money as they would have made in terms of profit, and that will affect the tax payout of these companies. So it's a whole lot of issues. Maybe I will take it sector by sector.
Exactly, but before we get to the sector, you actually mentioned that the number of jobs that might be lost will be pretty high. Now, according to your survey, you're estimating about 40% of workforce by December 2015 would have been lost.
Yeah, for sectors that are highly hit by this policy. Not all the sectors, but the report said we listed some sectors that are worse hit.
Okay, so let's talk about those sectors. You listed about 8 of them, starting with the financial services, manufacturing sector, tire and rubber, pharmaceutical, the oil and gas, free trade zone, furniture and manufacturers. Let's start with the financial services sector.
The financial services sector, unfortunately, will not come out because of the sensitivity of that sector to tell you how this has been affecting them. But you see a lot of management time being wasted by to manage customers. You know, a lot of transactions that would have passed through the bank will not, you know, is not passing through. Even the commodities that are not even bad, that are not listed in the 41 items, they can't access Forex. Authentic report we got from bank is that some of these processes now take up to 2 months before you can get some of it. You know, we spoke to one of the large banks 2 weeks ago, and they said that they are finding a way around it. And you know the way they are finding around it? If you have like a $200,000 ticket transaction, they will ask you to go back and break it into pieces, $20,000, $10,000. You know, these are some ways they are going around it. So the non-interest income that would have accrued to banks for the transactions they're able to pipe, it's not coming to them.
But then that's another well, we call it round trip or fraudulent way of trying to circumvent.
It's not fraudulent. It's not fraud. I'm talking about the commodities that are not in the 41 items. I'm saying that the Forex is very, very scarce, such that even the items that are not listed in this document by central bank are not even adequately funded as at when due and how much you needed. You have to break your transaction. You know, somebody from the bank have to travel to Abuja, meet somebody, you know, and when you have this type of one-on-one specific treatment, it leads to underhand corruption and all of those. Those are the challenges the financial services sector are having. And for the fact, of course, you see a situation where some importers have money, dollar balances in a particular bank, but you cannot use the balances you have in a particular bank to fund import in another bank. You know, these are the challenges, you know, that these banks are passing through. You know, that will likely lead to job losses. It will likely lead to revenue drop. Of course, the TSA, you know, the TSA is hitting them from one angle. You know, this FX policy is also hitting them from the other angle. Okay. This is the challenge. You look at sectors such as the fast-moving consumer goods, the cosmetics, the food industry. Most of them use palm oil. And it will interest Nigerians to know that we are not self-sufficient in palm oil. Today, we import about 1.2 million metric tons to meet up with the 1.8 million metric tons demand per annum. You know, the local production is about 600,000 metric tons. Imported part of it, 1.2 million metric tons, totaling 1.8 million metric tons. So you just go ahead and ban importation of palm oil. Of course, we have the capacity to produce that, but it needs time. The base breed of oil palm takes 5 to 8 years for you to plant, and you start producing and set out the refineries. So this is one of our complaints, that maybe before they embark on this journey, they would have sat down with key stakeholders to see these goods, how can we ameliorate some of the challenges that will come in. But then,
Dr. Wani, in conducting this survey of how this has affected companies, you know, because of the exclusion, did you also conduct a survey to find out how much production has happened since that's, you know, exclusion in July till now?
We did so. For example, in the pharmaceutical industry, you know, pharmaceutical industry, one of the major inputs is the glass containers, the small glass, and even rubber, plastic. Glass have been banned. Rubber and rubber materials and the associated products have been banned. By November or December, we are being told that the stock most of these companies, the local pharmaceutical industry, have in their warehouse or whatever, they will run out of the stock. Of course, the indigenous producers of glass bottles, and they don't produce small bottles, you know, for pharmaceuticals. You need to import it. And for the indigenous producers to maybe expand their plants or even fix their factory to be able to produce such, it takes them like a year for them to invest in such with the technology and fund to get that to happen. The meaning of that is that about 80 billion naira invested over the last 3 years by operators in the local operators in the pharmaceutical industry will probably go to flames if this policy is allowed to see the light of the day till December. And this is why we've been engaging with the authorities, with the CBN, to see what will be done. Of course, we identify with the problem of scarcity of dollar arising from the oil price and crude oil market. Of course, but this policy is just like you see a rat in one of your rooms or two, you know, and you decide to burn down the room. You know, engaging the operators, even the physical authorities, because we've seen a situation where custom, the Ministry of Commerce and Trade and Investment said they were never consulted. Some of the trade policies, some of the reforms already going on in these ministries are hot.
Okay, so let me just take you through some of the points that you highlighted in your survey, that many SMEs you already talked about are now forced to wire transactions from neighboring countries, and there's been a closure of credit lines as a result of credibility crisis by foreign partners. But what I want you to comment on is this loss of confidence on Nigerian business operators by their foreign partners owing to their inability to fulfill obligations.
This one is very, very sad. You know, one of our major challenge is those transactions that are already in the pipeline as at the date this policy was announced. And that is what we call bills for collection. You know, just to give a graphic example, you've ordered for particular, maybe this cloth. You know, the cloth have been sent by your counterpart abroad. You know, you now need to wire back the money. You cannot do that. These are credibility crises, and some of these transactions have a credit line. You know, maybe banks abroad have opened that. You know, you cannot satisfy this credit line, and this is one of the advice we gave CBN and say, okay, identify those transactions that are already in the pipeline as at the date of this you announcing this policy, so that this credibility issue and downgrading the country will not happen. You know, so this is a key challenge, and it's also hurting the custom. Another side of it is that you find a situation where you cannot even pay cash, that is dollar cash, into a domiciliary account. You know, we see it that as infringement to the customer's right, or the business right, the fundamental right of businesses and customers, because you are not allowing them to use the fund for what they want to use it for, especially for legitimate goods.
But banks will do what's best in the interest of themselves, and of course ensuring financial stability, as well as complying with directives from the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Of course, but Central Bank is not the Nigerian Constitution. For example, the free trade zone, for you to operate in the free trade zone, there are incentives that will make somebody to operate there.
Okay, so Dr. Wani, we'll take it up from there.
Okay.
We'll take a look at how this restriction is going to be affecting trade at the free trade zones when we come back after this.
Thank you.
Business Morning continues in just a moment. Dr. Vincent Wani will still be here with me in the studios when I return. Stay with us.